Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about technology and data. On the line with us is Cannabis, our CBD correspondent.
Whoa.
Good CBD product.
I am.
Welcome back. So I wanted to recap basically on yesterday's podcast where we talked about how cannabis is leading the 2020 presidential election. Today in Politico, we're seeing that Harris and Nadler teamed up on a bill to decriminalize cannabis. So the bill would bar the denial of federal public benefits for cannabis use and provide that immigrants wouldn't be deported or have their citizenship denied solely on cannabis infractions. And then the article continues to go into saying that it's going to target grants for certain cannabis businesses and a push to remove cannabis from the Federal Controlled Substances Act, effectively allowing states to establish their own policies. All of this, I think, in my opinion, is paving the way for the States Act. The States Act is an acronym. Essentially, what the States Act will do is kick the can down the road, allow each state to act independently, and not allowing the federal government to intervene or get in the way. With states like Oregon allowing to have international trade, as long as the feds allow it, this law would then turn cannabis into a commodity where you can have interstate commerce, allowing West Coast travel from San Diego to Fairbanks, Alaska, including Canada. So it's a pretty big deal. And like we mentioned yesterday, it really all boils down to money. There's going to be less revenue from investments like real estate as the market kind of turns over and corrects a little bit with the stock market. So Yahoo Finance has an article about the most important thing to know about investing in cannabis stocks as people kind of transition their investment from maybe real estate to something more risky or advantageous like cannabis stocks. And the number one thing that I pulled out of this entire article was that in the US, excise taxes have been more of a problem than oversupply of cannabis shortages. The article says, for instance, some locales in California are dealing with a combined tax rate of close to 45% once states and local taxes are added to the retail excise tax and the wholesale tax on the growers. So it makes it impossible for legal channels to compete with the black market on price unless some of these companies are able to operate out of Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico is a U.S. protected territory. Puerto Ricans are Americans, but there's no congressional representation. So you remember that you can't have taxation without representation, which means that Puerto Rico doesn't have any U.S. federal income tax. They have their own tax system, but after Hurricane Maria, they've put in some tax benefits that allows a lot of companies, including hemp and cannabis companies, to go down there and work from Puerto Rico and take advantage of 4% corporate tax cap, 50% tax credits, 100% tax exemptions in some cases. And so in my opinion, the companies that do go to Puerto Rico are going to be the ones that survive. Those that are working out of California and not taking advantage of an extra, say 24% margin, a profit margin, they're not going to survive.
So I had a call yesterday. He was reaching out to find some very granular data. So I was informing him on the data. And during the course of that, I said, okay, so what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm down here in Puerto Rico. I'm checking out this. I'm looking at that. I'm doing the other thing. So he was actually probably down there looking at ways to put the home office? Is it that simple?
It is. And it could be an entity. It doesn't have to be the home office. That's ideal because that's going to give you the tax guarantees for 20 years and give you the biggest benefit of having your headquarters down there while you operate all over the world. File an IPO up in Canada still, you can do that. But being in Puerto Rico is the best place in the world, quite literally, for cannabis, especially CBD companies, because you can export that anywhere around the world. Even cannabis companies dealing with THC, though, have a benefit to have an entity down there, whether it's a bilingual call center, terpene research and development, what have you. There's 4 different acts. There's benefits for exports, personal relocation of you and your business. There's agricultural incentives, business development incentives, and then tourism on top of that. So I guess there's 5 different ways. And tourism is both agricultural and medical tourism. You can read between the lines there. Puerto Rico's broke. All right. There's no joke about that. They need the money. And so there's already companies that are going down there, like our friend Craig Gimbel of Dutch Master Nutrients. I know Dabstars was looking at it. Dixie Elixirs is down there. So there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of validation. Companies are already doing it.
You know, I learned so much listening to your podcast, homie. I dig it.
It's the way to survive. That is a fact as companies move towards international as well as more data-driven decisions. And according to this Yahoo Finance article, we're seeing some of that combined with the NACbio, which is a new cannabis intelligence service. So the Canadian entrepreneur, Dr. Ty Wish, and the National Access Cannabis Corp announced the launch of the NACbio, which is a cannabis intelligence as a service company. So the NACbio is assembling a large database and biobank of cannabis users that integrates high quality information about the consumer, the products they're using, and the outcomes they experience. So the article goes in to say that most other industries are using big data approaches for innovation and competitive intelligence, but the cannabis sector has yet to assemble the necessary infrastructure and capabilities. And they believe that data intelligence is an enormous catalyst for further innovation in the nascent industries, and that NACbio's intelligent platform will enable innovation within the cannabis industry by empowering cultivators, retailers, consumers, and other stakeholders to better understand how cannabis works in the real world. And that sounds a lot like the Talking Hedge. You know, Dan, you're the CBD correspondent, your boots on the ground. I'm looking at data that's already coming in, you know, both that's leading economic indicators as well as trailing economic indicators, data from Headset, Front Runner, BDS Analytics, comprised with your boots on the ground, real customer data validation. You know, this is definitely validating the Talking Hedge, and with technology being the second largest investment vehicle with data, there's no doubt this company is probably going to do very well.
In general, it goes like this: look for opportunity, right? And then, gosh, it was 6 months ago when you and I were talking about lack of real world data, and then you have your approach, harnessing these different, you know, aggregated streams, applying your professional background, right? All of that stuff. I have my approach: go stand in the river, right? Go get right down in the weeds. There's so much capital in this market right now. Personally, I am falling in love with the data because it is so rapid paced, right? I mean, every day now I've got new stuff that's got me, you know, eyes getting wider, right? And let's face it, that's exciting. That's interesting.
I love it. I mean, as you know, we've taken data from a lot of these aggregators to use for not only inventory control, but preferences on flavors. So with the asthmatic inhaler, you know, if we want more of a root beer flavor, we know to go to this hipster area in Ballard versus a more diverse neighborhood, actually the most diverse neighborhood in the entire United States. Maybe they like orange or grape flavors. And so getting that granular data is really important. Finding out what drives customer purchase decisions. All of those things are not only very important for companies to survive, but it's also incredibly lucrative as well. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.